To Fiverr Friday. My name is Anthony Pica. This show is all about helping the new and upcoming voiceover artists grow their business and sidestep all of the crazy things that I seem to step on. It is great to be here. It is the 31st, the last day of July. We are almost in August. It's crazy to believe, but we are almost there, and it really does... man, it goes fast. It really goes fast. You know what? Actually, let me see. Am I on the... Nope. There we go. That's the right screen. I was wondering where I was. I was missing the top stuff and the bottom stuff. But anyways, welcome to Fiverr Friday. If you're new, then Fiverr Friday is all about me doing a little spiel, but more importantly, you and I connecting and being able to talk about Fiverr, and you ask questions. I do my best to answer it. You leave comments. I do my best to comment back. And, you know, we just overall have a good old time. So that's what Fiverr Friday is about. And today we have an awesome question that came in from Sean Carney, was his name. And his question was, how do you know when to go full-time as a voice actor? And of course, in this case, you know, how does Fiverr play a role in that? So I think that's a fantastic question, and we're going to dive into that. But I want to talk to you really quick about something else first. And actually, before first, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the subscribe button as well as the notification button. So when I do go live and when I do upload videos, go ahead and you'll if you hit that, you'll go ahead and get a notification. And actually, if you want even more, you can go into your settings tab, and if you click it'll show you where do you want to get all notifications when something happens from a VO's journey. You can go and hit it there. So it's just like another thing YouTube did. But anyways, moving on, I want to welcome everybody from Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. Thank you for being here. And I want to tell you about one thing real quick before we move into about knowing how to go full time and talking a little bit about that. But the big thing I'm talking to you first is about the promoted gigs. As you know, Fiverr's been rolling it out. More and more people have it. They've recently taken it off of the beta program, although you have to meet some certain criteria in order to get that, which is available for you to see. However, my big news is I actually just recently canceled promoting my gig. I did it as soon as it was available to me, and I ran it for maybe 3 weeks or so. And, you know, it's not produced much more than 1 or 2 jobs. Well, it's produced 4 total. And the overall amount that I've spent comparative to what I've made, yes, I made more. Okay, I think I made around $280 or so, and I spent maybe close to $70. So that's not, to me, based off of, yes, that's a profit, and it's 100, 200. I mean, it's a good percentage profit gain, but the amount of orders I'm getting for the amount of time that or the amount of money and the amount of clicks and stuff that it was doing just wasn't worth it to me. It wasn't worth me spending that extra money. Because those orders anyways that came to me, they were literally, I was messaged anyways, and I had to go through the process of getting them to actually, order as opposed to them just ordering. Now, I know there are many people who are doing this that are making a lot of money from the sponsored ads, and I'm very happy for them. Do you know what I mean? But honestly, all the money that I'm making doesn't come from sponsored ads. And with everybody being successful, and I'm not being successful through the sponsored ads, but just still I'm being successful normally, I don't feel like it's necessary for me to run the ads because it's not really showing any upside. I will say that, like I said before, I think people that are not as well entrenched yet in Fiverr, the ads will help them a lot. It will give them an opportunity to be seen. So I think that's a wonderful thing. If you remember when we talked about it previously, that was kind of the whole idea that I thought would be really cool to see if that really did help more newcomers as opposed to people who had been around for a while, even though I know a lot of people who are and top-rated sellers who are doing very well with the promoted program also. It just wasn't doing it for me, and I didn't feel necessary for me to keep running the promotions. So now I did find out that I have heard that more people are also getting more gigs added to their promotions. So more people are getting gigs that are, instead of 1 or 2, they've got 3 or 4. So that's something that I find interesting as well. But, like I said, I just made the personal decision not to do it. It wasn't worth my time. And I figured, you know what, it'll open up the slot for some other people who need it more than I do. So, that was kind of my decision behind it. And I just wanted to share it with you so you can, know where I'm going, and it may be worth your time or it may not be worth your time. Judge it based on your stats. So anyways, I don't know if anybody has any comments about that or what you're doing, but anyways, I'm happy to, let you know that it's a great, I think it's working well for others, but not for me. All right, I just saw something real quickly. Sean said he's not sure if the comments are working on Facebook. I do see comments. I do see, Sean, I saw you post a little earlier. You said, thank God it's Friday, Fiverr Friday. And then I know we've got Paul, we've got Don, we've got Ender, what's up, my man? We've got Dana, we've got Dan, we've got Eric, Greg, we've got, hello, Angela. We've got, of course, Sean, Scott, Dan, Mark, Frank. All right, so anyways, let's go ahead and dive in real quick, and then I'll get to answering questions. So if you've got questions, post them into the chat. I will get to them as soon as I'm done with my little spiel. So the question I got earlier was, when do you know how to go full-time as a voice actor? And I think it's a valid question, especially if your goal is to go full-time. You feel that itch. And I want to give you 2 different situations that I personally was in, that I made one bad decision and I made one good decision when it came to going full time at a business. So the first time a while ago, I guess it's been about it's been about 10 or 12 years ago now. About 12 years ago, I bought a small cafe. And the whole idea behind it was that I was going to buy, businesses, and, I was going to create a business that would manage small businesses, you know what I mean? And so forth. And I would continue working until the business was making enough money on its own without me that it could pay me, that I didn't have to work anymore. However, I bought this small cafe, and I was so intoxicated by the idea of being my own boss that I convinced myself that it would be better for me to leave my job and to work full time, even though that's not originally the criteria I used to buy the business, and the numbers and everything that I crunched. It just wasn't what I did. And I justified it by the emotion or the excitement of being my own boss. So I left my job, and I started full time working at the cafe I had. And man, I'm not a restaurant owner. I love food. I love eating food, but when it comes to making it, and I can make some good food, but when it comes to running a restaurant, I had no clue, and I tanked bad. I mean, it was just really bad. I screwed things up, and it was all my fault. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to hire the right people. I didn't know how to manage the stuff well. You know what I mean? And rightly so. It wasn't my original plan, and my business tanked, and I ended up having to sell the business for, and fortunately I was able to get just as much money as I had spent. So there was, it wasn't a bad thing except for the time. And what I had to do while that was happening was I had to go back to school and get some more things I had to do, and then so I could get back into teaching again. And I got back into teaching again. So that was the first time that I jumped the gun, and I left my job to go full time as a business owner. And I did it for the wrong reasons, because I was so emotionally excited about it. about being my own boss and the opportunity that I just overlooked all of the logical, common sense things that I needed to. So when I started this business, I told myself I was not going to make the same mistake no matter how tough it got. So what I decided to do was not quit my job until I was making at least double. This is my logic thing, making double what I was making. And I tell you what happened to me for a little bit that caused me some problems. And we're going to dive into some things like insurance, healthcare, taxes, planning for the future. Like these are all things that a lot of times your employer will take care of for you. All right. And we don't even think about them. But, when you go on your own, you have to think all about them because it's up to you. But anyways, one thing I did, and I realized this about halfway through my journey as a voiceover artist up till now, I was starting to make more money. And what happened is we were spending all of the money we had, and then the money I was making for voiceover became a part of that spending. So it was like I was actually spending more, okay, with the business, as opposed to the business bringing in more money, bringing in money, and then me not spending that money just piling up. So about halfway through my journey up to this point, I realized that, I was growing the business, but the business was not self-sufficient, from the overall financial situation of my family. So that was an issue. So then we became dependent on my income from my second job, if you will, which was voiceover. That became a problem. So I told myself that I needed to really buckle down and, focus on building a business that had, I had financial reports. I had specific income and expenses, and I had a separate business account. I had set up an LLC. I had to think about, what about insurance? What about licensing? What about, my retirement stuff? What was I going to do about all these things? And on top of that, was there any sort of income that was coming in on a regular basis, okay, that, was not like I didn't have to wake up every morning scared out of my mind whether or not I was going to be able to pay my bills. See, that was the thing that, I was most scared of, right? Because, we think, depending on what your job is, that there's security there. And I think we've proven that, especially nowadays, there's not really security anywhere. And I'm very happy I do what I do now as opposed to depending on someone else for a job. But at the time, that was very frightening, and it still is very frightening, okay? Especially if you're not making enough money, or even if you're just making at the edge of what you need. So to me, the criteria became, actually, it got to a point where I was losing money. I had calculated this because I was at my job. And I took what I couldn't do during the day, like people even contacted me, saying, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? I was like, I can't. I calculated what I was actually losing during the day compared to what I was making, and realized that it was way more. I was losing more money than I was making during the day. Plus, there was some other things that were happening, right? By being home, I was able to do XYZ, you know what I mean? And there was a significant difference at that point in my income. So my income had grown for voiceover. It was double. At that time, it was double of what I was making, right, as a teacher. So, I was like, well, hey, it's double now. Even if I lost half of it, I would still be okay. Do you know what I'm saying? So at that point, I felt that it was good. I had set everything up from a business standpoint. We had figured out the insurance, figured out, everything that we needed to in order to have a business separate from our home expenses. So to answer your question, there's a lot of things that I think you need to check off before you just go full time as a voice actor. Okay. This is a business. I love the art of acting, and there's like a dichotomy there, right? They're so separated in one sense, because you've got the art of what we do, and then you've got this hard line in the sand like with business. But they've got to come together, because you got to be able to do both or you won't be successful. So the business aspect, you have to have a business entity, you have to get licensed, you have to know taxes. I mean, we'll talk about taxes when you're an employee. You know what I mean? Usually if you file, anything as an employee, your employer pays half of a lot of the taxes you pay. All right, they pay half. Like if there's a 15% tax on like unemployment, you know what I mean? Your employer pays half of that. Well, as a business owner, especially as a sole proprietor or even a single member LLC, you pay all 15%. You're paying all of the taxes as opposed to only paying half of a certain amount of taxes. There's a huge difference there. And you need to know all of that information. So all of a sudden, and it's so funny because people get so angry at businesses when they're, when they complain necessarily about taxes. But until you write a ridiculously large check to the federal government for taxes and the state government of money that you earned, right, that didn't come from your employer or anything else, that you worked all for yourself, it gets really hard. It gets really hard. Of course, like I believe taxes are necessary for us to have. My house catches on fire and the fire department comes, I'm very glad that I pay taxes. I'm just saying that you have to take that in consideration because you need to be able to put money away from taxes. So now, if you make X amount of money and it's the same amount of money you make from your job, like, let's say you make $3,000 a month from your job and $3,000 a month from voiceover. Well, is that $3,000 gross or is that net? And is that after taxes? Because maybe that $3,000 a month in cash flow you actually get after taxes from your employer is not actually, you're making $3,000 a month in cash, but you're actually maybe only making $2,000 or $1,800 a month. You've got to think about these things and you've got to plan for them. Does that make sense? I hope that helps with your mindset. And if you don't have that stuff figured out, please, God, do not go full time and leave your job until you have a steady business that runs. Sure, you still have to run it. I'm not saying that it has to be a perfect system set up where you could go lay on the beach somewhere and money's just rolling in. All right, that's a fantasy. That's not real life. Okay. But at the same time, though, there's got to be some sort of sense of like, it's like, for example, you know how when you have a job and you go, there's a time, you have a shift, right? You work, no matter what job you're at, you work either, whether it's 9 to 5, whether it's, an evening shift, whether it's a midnight, a red eye shift, whatever, you still work. We still work hours. We still work a certain amount of hours. Well, in our businesses, especially when you're full-time, it becomes this idea that if you're not set on your own schedule and if you're not good at organizing from the start, you don't have to get up in the morning. You don't have to go to bed at night. You can do whatever. Like it's a different world when you're in complete control of what you're doing. It's like back if you went to college, you realize your parents no longer tell you what to do. You can stay. You don't have to go back to your dorm room. No one's going to catch you. All right. It's the same sort of just you have this blanket freedom. But with that, just like in college and et cetera, comes a lot of responsibility. Meaning like you've got to set your own hours. You've got to make sure you've got your financial reports done for the month. You've got to make sure you're setting up your business, the license is up to date. Because remember, you've got licenses with the state and with the federal government, especially with the corporation commission, especially if you do an LLC, which I recommend. All right, even if you do a sole proprietor, you still have to do a DBA, doing business as. So you've got to pay taxes to the local treasurer of your city or locality that you're in. You've got to have all of this stuff because then there's also zoning information, right? And then there's liability insurance that you need to check out in case you have somebody. This is the craziest stuff. Now, fortunately, we're not having people come over, but it's the craziest things. Like, do you know if you have somebody comes over to your house, all right, and they slip and fall and they break their leg, they can sue your business, right? If they're coming for your business, then they come over to your house. If you don't have liability insurance for that, like all these businesses you see you go into, they have liability insurance in case someone falls on their property and sues them, all right? They got to have insurance. These are things you have to think about. Okay? You need to think about before you just quit your job. So I recommend before you do any quitting, you make sure that you have all of those ducks in a row. Okay. Your business is earning at least, and this is just my personal opinion, of course, double what you are making, maybe even more. You have a plan to replace everything. You've accounted for taxes. You've accounted for healthcare. I mean, my gosh, healthcare, right? You've accounted for all of that. You've accounted for all of the future, right? You're whether you have a 401k or whether if you're a state employee or a government employee, you have sometimes the state and the government, they have most of them have state and government retirement plans. Have you planned? I mean, once you stop, that stops. Are you paid in? What do you do with that money? There's so many things that you need to consider. They're not bad. That doesn't mean you can't do this. Right? It just means that you got to have all your ducks in a row before you jump on the train and quit. Really, it's important because now I do want to address the simple fact that many of you, and I work with many people, haven't had a choice. I mean, let's be honest, right? People have been getting fired. People have been getting let go. People have been let go. And people's jobs that they've been let go for will probably never come back. So I'm talking about you actually making a decision. You might be thrust into that decision right now. And because you're thrust in that decision, you need to take the actions I just said. Not only are you working your butt off to put food on the table for your family, but you got to make sure you're actually making a viable business that has all of these aspects to it. Because if you don't, inevitably it will catch up to you and you will crash and burn. Whether the government comes after you for taxes, all right, whether you implode from the inside because business starts to come, or companies come after you. I mean, or you don't have somebody get sick and you don't have the insurance. You've got to figure all this stuff out. You cannot leave it to anyone else. It is up to you as the business owner. To me, that was the biggest single change. In the past, as an employee, you could always be like, it's not my job. That's my employer's job, right? My job is to do X, Y, Z, and that's it. It's their job to take care of that. But in our business, it's all our job. It's all our job. And of course, this is on top of course, the actual business of the products we're producing, which are the voiceovers, and then dealing with the customers, and then dealing with marketing. Okay? That's why people fail at business so much. Because it's hard to run a business. So all of you right now that are watching or that are thinking about it and are doing it, I give you so much props for this. We are the warriors of the 21st century who are out there doing things, making our own destiny. Okay? And not leaving it in the hands of anyone else. That's impressive. That's amazing. But you cannot overlook these things, because if you do, your future will not be for certain. It will be like left to chance. All right, I know I got on my pedestal there, and you know me, I love to go for it. So I hope, at least with that rant, that it gave you some ideas and thoughts about the things that you need to do to get your business moving forward. It's the things that you need to do that you might not even like to do. You might not even know how to do. You might even be like, I don't even know where to begin to create an LLC. I don't even know, where do I even go to, find insurance on my own? I mean, if you've been an employee your whole life and you've had to, your employer bring, papers to you for insurance and you sign them, you know what I mean? And they have nice little packets and you look through it and you decide based on what your employer tells you to, that you have the options for. You may not have ever gone and had to go and find insurance on your own, you know what I mean? Like actually without an employer, because now you are the employer. You might not have realized how much you actually have to pay in taxes. Okay? I mean, it is shocking when you get the tax bill, all right, for money you're making, that you have to pay all the taxes. Your employer halves most of the taxes you pay. I don't know if you know that. The employer pays usually 7.5% of like Medicare, 7.5% of unemployment, whatever the percentage is, they pay half of it. They split it with the employee, right? On the local and federal level. But as a business owner, we pay it all. So these are things for you to focus on to make sure that's a part of your business. And in order to make sure that it keeps running and you don't lose all your hair, that's why I wear a hat. All right, you don't lose all your hair, is put time aside for your business for managing the business aspect of your business. And then the other part is, of course, managing the product, your voiceovers, managing, you've got to improve. It's just like working at another job. You have to have time for improvement. You have to have time for coaching. You've got to have time for marketing. You got to have time to actually do the physical work. Okay, so all of this is set up first by you organizing it that way. Okay, well, let's go to the boards and see what you people have to say. I'm excited you have questions and comments. Thank you, Sean, for asking that wonderful question. I don't know why I'm talking that way. I apologize. All right, so I know I'd gone down the line here. Let's see. I got the first question, I think, comes from Scott. Scott says, I got an email from Fiverr today saying I was chosen as part of their rising talent. Excellent. Do you know much about that, Anthony? Yes, Scott. Basically what that means is that you will be promoted on the front page. There is a slot about 5 to 6 or 6 to 7 rows down that has this across the board 4 calls Rising Talents, and you'll be promoted there for X amount of days. I'm never certain how many days it is, but usually it's a great way to get started, especially with traffic on the front page. You know what I mean? It's a good way, and you'll get more business. So excellent. Congrats. Let's see. Again, Sean, thank you for the question. Frank says, hi, Anthony. What microphone and other equipment do you take with you while on vacation? Honestly, Frank, I try not to. I don't want to take equipment with me on vacation. I don't want to do voiceovers on vacation. I know, I'm a weirdo. I don't want to do voiceovers in a closet on vacation. I've said it here. You heard me. It's recorded. All right. But the truth is I don't. So I'm going to tell you the other answer in a second, but I'll tell you what equipment I do have if I had to. Like you're probably like, okay, thank you, Anthony. But if you had to, what would it be? This is what it would be. So let me actually grab it. So I have this, right? It's the Zoom H5. This is what I like to travel with, the Zoom H5. I usually bring my shotgun microphone, and I actually bring this too because you never know what kind of situation you find yourself in where you might not have the best room or the best setup, right? Now, I also like to bring my Apollo Twin. So I pack a decent amount of equipment. I mean, they're small pieces, okay? But it's one of those situations where my Apollo Twin, I have it set up, and my computer, I have a laptop that I bring. So it's like a laptop. I bring those 2 pieces, my Apollo Twin, my Zoom H5, and I bring at least my shotgun microphone, my Sennheiser 416. So that's what I bring. And I also bring a, like a little stand for it to sit on. Not a big one because I usually don't have all that room, but a little stand. Now, I will tell you that not all spaces have all that type of, it's funny as I watch videos of people like the hotel videos, and some people have done those, you'll notice that the hotels they stay in always seem to have couches. I don't always stay in a hotel with a couch. Now, you might need to make sure if you stay in a hotel with a couch, but that doesn't always happen. Especially if you stay in a new, clean line type of hotel where there's all these hard lines, which is the worst for us. Right. So, I do take that equipment. But at this point now, because when I traveled before, I would take that equipment. I never really liked the way it sounded on the road. I just went ahead and started setting all of my settings for I was going on vacation. And when I got back, I would record. So that's what I do. But if I absolutely have to take stuff, that's what I take. All right. Let's see. Too Rich to Miss. What's up? What's good, my man? It's Angela. Let's see, Tom, Dan, food service. Oh no. Do you know when I went into that, I made the same mistake with food. I went into that, my accountant, at the time I had an accountant, he was like, don't go into the food business. I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. He's like, it's a mess. It's a nightmare. More people in the food industry, that's the number one place that people are embezzled from. I was too. I had hired some people. I didn't know what I was doing. I lost a lot of money from embezzlement too. It's just because it's a very cash heavy business. You know what I mean? And if you don't have the right systems in place to monitor it, well, anyways. That's another story. Let's see. Facebook user. I had the whole plan to build to full time, then was made redundant about 2 years short of my laid out plan. Do you mean laid off? Maybe that's what you mean. But I hear you. You never know that, and that's why you also want to make sure you're working towards that stability of you building a business that you control, so that someone else isn't in charge of your destiny. You are. Yvette, what's up? Zach, good to have you, sir. Aisha, hello. Let's see. Super sad amount of tax dollars for me this year. I know. I don't even want to talk about taxes. Good information, brother. Thank you, buddy. And you don't want to get audited because you didn't know what to. Yeah, I know someone who did. By the way, that's another thing too. You got to make sure you separate your business account from your personal account, because just like Rich was saying, if you get audited and you're paying things out of your personal account, okay, and then you're trying to write them off, an auditor will come and be like, wait a minute, that doesn't count as your business stuff. You'll be in a whole heap of trouble. So it's a really good idea. You got to separate your stuff. But in order to get a business account, you've got to have the right licensing in order for you to do that. So, that's where you gotta be on top of everything that's required as a business. Let's see, Facebook user, plus have at least 6 months worth of your current income. Absolutely. Have as much as you can. Totally. Adam, good evening from the UK. What's up, man? I know it's later there in the UK. Good to have you. Sean, did you claim your Fiverr income from the beginning to the government? Yes. Yes, I did. From the beginning? No, because I didn't make very much money. I didn't make very much money at all. I mean, I think the first year I made a total of $800 on Fiverr, like I've said before. So, I didn't make a lot of money my first year on Fiverr at all. But after that, I've claimed I've had to. Now, on a side note, Fiverr will be coming. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys. Fiverr's rolling out something new. If you haven't seen it yet, it will be coming out soon, because I got notified by this. But Fiverr will be making everybody sign, just like, when you go to Amazon or any of the other places, you have to sign your W-2. They're going to be coming out and making everybody sign that, and sign some other documents as well, and for tax purposes and for work relations, And also, by the way, if you didn't know, you actually have to contact Fiverr right now and ask them. I had to contact them and ask them for my earnings so they could send me an actual earnings that I had, because what they show on the stats section, the analytics section, that's just an overall basis. That's a general basis. It's not like an in-depth earnings form. So I can't remember what the form name is called, but I had to actually contact them through email and ask them for that. And it took them like 2 weeks to send it to me, but I had to do that for taxes. So, if you're at that point and you're making a lot of money, you have to, make sure you contact Fiverr at the end of the year and have them send you that information. Let's see. Luffy, it's Friday. Yes, sir. All right. When should you create an LLC or business entity? Honestly, I created an LLC as soon as I, became serious about being a business owner, because, I signed everything everything goes under that LLC. Plus I had to have my LLC because I wanted to create an LLC in order to get my business account. So it was like, I had to do it as soon as I could. Okay. So I did it as soon as I could. Now, you could also be a sole proprietor, right? It's basically a sole proprietor, and a single member LLC is the same. It's basically the same thing, except one has its own. So as a LLC, you have the ability to put everything under an LLC's name, right? And its own social security number, if you will. But as a sole proprietor, you have to use your own social security number, which means, that's why LLC limited liability, right? It means that if someone was to sue you or, and come after you as an LLC, everything held under the LLC, like let's say your equipment and everything is all under the business LLC, and they come after you, they can only seize what is under that LLC, what the LLC owns. But if you have your social security number, like you are, the person that everything is under, then they can come and take your house. They can seize anything that is under your personal assets. So that's probably, to me, one of the biggest differences. I mean, there goes into some tax differences when we look at what you can do down the road, like switching from an LLC to even different corporation types, and we talk about different ways to get around taxes. When you start making a lot of money, it's not getting around taxes, but we talk about dividends, because there'll come a point where you're making enough money that you need to take a salary. You don't just take all the money out of the business, right? It's not every month you get money and you're like, woohoo, I'm going to get dinner. You're taking a monthly salary. And then then the rest of the money is the business's money. And then you have your personal money, right? This is the type of management we talk about when you get to that place. A lot of us just start out, we're just taking the money. We're just going to town and taking the money. So, that's the separate mindset that you got to build, and creating the LLC helps that. Let's see. Yep. One of those peeps that got thrust into the decision, made redundant in May. I think I dropped a few plates. It's, man, so many people are in that position right now. So, my heart goes out to you and everybody else. Keep doing the best you can. And, I'm praying for you guys. Let's see. Dan says, self-employed. I can work any 16 hours of the day that I choose. I like that. That's right. Scott says, good advice, AP. No plans to leave my career. I want to retire in 10 to 15 years. VO is my plan for a mobile retirement gig. Absolutely. I think that's one thing I love about this as well. I mean, God forbid if I ever lose my voice, but I mean, I should be able to do this for a long time. All right. I mean, it shouldn't be physical things that I can't do this anymore. Do you know what I mean? So I'm right there with you, Scott. Now, if I'm tripping over $1 to make a dime, I may be persuaded. Let's see. I hear you, Scott. Don says, finding insurance on your own sucks big time. Filled out a form online and received about 50 phone calls, text, and email an hour. It's unreal how expensive it is. It's very unreal. And that it does make you double think everything you know about, or you think about insurance and healthcare and stuff. Let's see. Kaylee, yep. Filing that Schedule C or SE can be brutal if you haven't done it before. Yes, it absolutely can. It absolutely can. And there's also entities out there that will charge you a lot of money to do it for you. But I recommend, because for example, you got to go through the IRS in order to get your LLC number. You've got to go through your state corporation commission to get the LLC, but then you've got to go through the IRS to get a different tax ID number. Then you need to go through your locality, right, to actually apply for your business license. But you have to have all of the, you have to get from the state corporation commission, your SEC, from your local state. And by the way, every state's different too. So your state has different rules than my state, et cetera, et cetera. So I hear you, Kaylee. It can be a pain in the butt. And then it's a pain in the butt. What's really a pain in the butt is the first year you get your business license too, for tax purposes, they don't know what you're going to make, right? So when you go to pay for your first year, full year of it, all right, after you've gotten it, they charge you double, because they charge you from the first year and the second year. So they actually, I almost paid $1,000 when I had to renew my business license. They're like, no, it's the first time, it's your first renewal because it's over 2 years. I'm like, that really sucks for first time business owners, right? It's a lot of money. Let's see. Aisha, such great information. I'm a voice talent from the Caribbean. Awesome. Be safe. I don't know if the hurricane's coming for you. I don't know if it's already passed, but I know, I don't know if the hurricane is by the Caribbean, but be careful. Currently working on building my home studio. What kind of speakers do you recommend for listening to my work before submitting to the client? So everybody has their own preferences. I'm kind of an oddball because I don't like to record with headphones. I don't like to listen back with headphones. The only time I use headphones is actually when I'm on a recording session or if I'm recording with music. Right? And I've got to listen to music while I'm recording. The rest of the time, I record with no headphones on, or I listen to my pair of JBL. I'm pointing at them like you can see them. See? No, my JBL speakers. So I use JBL monitors. All right, JBL monitors. And you can actually find, I've got a couple at vosjourney.com that you can go on there, and I've got some links. If you go into the VO equipment store, it'll show you where you can find those on Amazon. But that's what I listen to. And I make sure you get the monitors, because you want them that they're not boosted on a high end or boosted on the low end. They're monitors, not speakers. Okay, so because monitors, the idea is that it's giving you a clean sound, not a sound, like I said, with a high end or a low end or something skewing that, so you know exactly what you're getting. Let's see. Aisha says, I don't want to depend on right. Facebook, wow, made it to a live shot. It's great to have you. Out of Bounds says, Bill DeWeese has an additional TLM 103 microphone and other equipment in his vacation home. It must be nice. I hear that. I want a vacation home. That sounds fun. Let's see. Facebook user, since I have no job, VO will be full-time for me. I hear you. Let's see. Don't know why it doesn't show my name on here, but it's Ben in the UK. Oh, what's up, Ben? Yeah, no, I don't know why. That's crazy. It's good to have you, Ben. It's always an honor to have you, Ben. Getting laid off work out okay in the end. Getting worked out. I hear you, ma'am. Kaylee, W-9 so they can 1099 you. Yep, that's it. You're right. Can you write off the percentage that Fiverr keeps? Yeah, that's a cost. Yes, absolutely. You don't so that's the cost of doing, that. I mean, it technically could go under the cost of goods sold, but no, it is. It goes under advertising costs. That's how I put it, right? Because they're marketing for you, right? So you technically get all that money, but then you pay Fiverr 20% of that to market and so forth and to keep the platform. So that's where that's where it goes under. So yes, you need to. You only get 20%. You only get 80%. So don't pay the full 100%. Let's see. That's why it's important for you to get that information from them. I didn't set up a business account, but I did open a new account to place my earnings. That's better than nothing. Absolutely, that's definitely better than nothing. And by default, if you don't set up something, you are going to be considered a sole proprietor. So if you don't set up anything, you'll be considered a sole proprietor, and they can still come after you. It's not like you'll just disappear under the carpet, right? Because they'll still, right? Because all these places, like what Fiverr's trying to do, like what Kaylee said, they're going to report it. So, the IRS will come after you if you don't, do the right decisions. It might not be for a while, but they'll catch up to you. They'll catch up to you years down the road, and it will be a disaster. So, you don't want that, because they're pretty much the only place that you can't get away from. Can't go bankrupt from. You can't get away from tax debt. It's like the worst kind of debt. That and student loan debt. If you notice, it's all the debt to the government. All the debt to the government they don't let you get rid of. Let's see. I didn't set up a business account. Once the business can pay for it, I will create an LLC. It is silly not to, because you need the liability protection. Absolutely. How many times have you or any VO have been sued? Good question. I don't know of any, but I don't want to wait till I find out. That's my thought process behind it. Because in my mind, I'm like, someone could come after you for whatever reasons, maybe they feel you've taken some sort of intellectual property of theirs, or something has happened. I don't know, but I just don't want to find out. So the answer is I don't know of any. Let's see. Replying to Facebook user, thank you. That's a great distinction. Sean said, that's me spending money buying gear and plugins. Well, it's an infatuation we all have. I mean, we all love the gear. I love my gear. It's nice gear. Yes, nice gear. Anyways, I'm an idiot. Let's see. Shantae, how do you know voiceover is right for you? You just know it in your bones, Shantae. Now, I would say that for me, I wanted to be a performer my whole life. I wanted to be an actor. This is just for me. I went to school for acting, and not for voice acting, but for stage acting, and I got to do it for a while. Then I went into teaching, And after a long period of time, I really felt empty inside. I wasn't fulfilling that need, house and bills and a mortgage and all this stuff. So I couldn't just leave a job and do that. So finding voiceover was one of the greatest godsends ever for me, because it ticked off every single box I could have. And the last box that was missing was the interaction with people, because I love interacting with people. And as a voiceover artist, it can be kind of lonely, as you already know. But what we're doing right now and the interaction I have with you, that's why I love to do this, it ticks off the last box for me, which is that interaction. If I didn't do this, if I didn't make these videos for you, I would probably go insane because I wouldn't have that interaction. So I love the interaction with you. So if voiceover, and here's my easy answer. If you woke up tomorrow and you were not going to be paid to do voiceover, would you still do it? I say that for any job. If you wake up tomorrow and someone at your job or your place of employment says, I'm not paying you anymore, but we still want you to come in, would you do it? If the answer is yes, you're meant to do it. If the answer is no, it's probably not what you're meant to do. And I don't mean that means you don't have to make money. I just mean, like, if tomorrow I wasn't making any money in voiceover and I had to go to a different road, knowing what I know now, I would still love to do voiceover, and I probably still would do it. I would, because it's what I love to do. And probably working with you all and helping people like this is what I love to do. I wouldn't want to do anything else. Here's another thing that I found that's kind of deep, but I'll go into it. Before I started this business, reality shot for you, every single day, maybe you can relate to this, maybe not, but every single day I would wake up and I had an idea. I always had ideas of things I could do to make money, ways I could get out of my job, things that I needed to try, all right, schemes that were going to make me $1 million every single day. There was never a moment in my mind that was settled, okay? But when I started this business, almost going on 4 years almost, there's not been one day that I've woke up that I've wanted to do anything different. Not one. And there is power in that, you guys. It is an incredible feeling, and I wish that upon all of you, because I'm not kidding when I say every single day. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Every single day, there's this feeling something's missing. But when I started this business, that all went away. So, Shantae, if that's how you feel, this is what you're meant to do. Whether you suck at it or not, that doesn't matter. It really doesn't, in my opinion. It matters is if you're meant to do this or not. And you know you're meant to do this if this is what you want to do and nothing else. That was deep. I don't even know how to bring it back after that one. Good question, Shantae. Facebook user, just tuned in. I'll check the replay, but wanted to say hi. Yeah, I bet that was a deep one, definitely. BDoggy45, good question, Walter. Walter, which question was that? Maybe I answered it already. Mark, what about the LLC and all the other legal stuff if I plan to pursue acting full-time, but voiceover is just a part of that, not the full-time job by itself? So if you plan on pursuing acting full-time, okay, it's all going to go under the same. So when you go to file taxes, and if you work with somebody, there's different places you file taxes under, like a performer. So there's two different ways. Now, remember, this is also dependent upon your state, but there's different ways. Like you either are a producer of content, or you are a curator, or like a studio, or you're an actor. So you're actually taxed differently as a studio as opposed to an actor. But whether you're a voice actor or a stage actor, you're going to be charged differently. I mean, you're going to be charged the same because you're still acting. It just, one's on stage, one's in front of a camera, and one's in front of a microphone. It's still charged the same. So your LLC should encompass all of it. Shouldn't just be one. You know what I mean? So that's why, like, mine's Anthony Pica Productions LLC, because it's all things that fall under my my productions. You know, if I produce stuff, if I'm acting or I'm doing voice acting in front of a microphone, it's all the same thing. So my recommendation is you have an LLC, one LLC for all of your acting. Let's see. Facebook user, you don't have to file in your state, right? You can file in a different state. Well, you have to file in the state that you live. All right. So the state that's your residence in. Okay. So, and then if you're living in another state, then you have to pay taxes in that state too. You gotta, I would check with an accountant or a tax expert. I don't want to give, any of the advice here is just things that I know by learning from experts. So I'm not like an expert advice, like I don't have I'm not a certified anything when it comes to taxes or things like that. So I would definitely talk to an accountant. Gotta run. We'll catch the replay. Thanks for doing these. Absolutely. Thank you. Kaylee, I do my own. I've been self-employed for 18 years, have my LLC, tax number, EID tax number. And yes, you get screwed those first years. Yeah. I just added a DBA under my umbrella LLC. Cool. Nice. Cool thing about your employee ID number, which is what she was saying up here, is your employee ID, which is your like a separate tax number, right? Instead of your social security number, your employee ID. A really cool thing about that is that once you have that with your state, you know what I mean? That doesn't go away. It stays with you. Okay. You have to re-up it. I mean, if you don't pay it, but you can create, but you have to it's a process to go through to get rid of it and then get a new one. But you could definitely, she's saying she's adding another DBA underneath the umbrella because it can be one overall thing and then you can have different DBAs. Like I have Anthony Pica Productions, but I also have a VO's Journey. Does that make sense? Let's see. For VO, I got the monitors you recommended a while back. Awesome. Walter says, I use Yamaha HS7 monitors. They sound great. Laffy HS5 are nice. No. All right. Real quick, we'll finish up here. We're grateful you did. Your podcast got me started. It's awesome. Thank you, Kaylee. I'm a lifelong storyteller. Voice acting is the latest incarnation of what makes me me. The lead up to my question is that when it comes to choosing a microphone, I learned it's less about fidelity and more about flattery. My question is, how do I know what microphone is the most flattering? Well, I mean, so I like that. That's true. That's actually pretty accurate. Besides you blatantly just buying many and trying them out, look for recommendations on what microphones do what. Like, for example, I use the Sennheiser 416 because it has such a nice, it accentuates the lower frequencies in my voice, right? And I can get really close to it and it really makes my voice warm. So the voiceovers I do, it works out really well for me. All right. And so I love that microphone sounding. Now, I've never used a TLM 103. Okay, but I know from listening to so many different people what a wonderful microphone that is too. All right, and I have a lot of friends and people I know who've recently started buying the U87 or whatever it is, the U87, and that looks wonderful. Okay, but that's like a $3,500 mic, depending on where you live. It is in the U.S. I know it's not that expensive in the U.K., but it's, so you have these mics. I've not used them, so I don't know how great they are. But in the end, my recommendation is look to see what the microphones, what people are saying about them, and then you're going to have to try them. And when in doubt, make sure when you get a microphone, there's a return policy. Make sure there's a return policy in case that, it's not working out for you, you can return it. But yeah, so that's my advice for the microphone. Let's see. I think they mean LLC. They mean the LLC. In my state, it costs about $1,000 to properly set up an LLC. Don't be cheap. Do it right. If you don't, when you need the LLC, the most it won't be there. Yeah. I listened to all your podcasts from the painful, sleepy. It was painfully sleepy. Thank you for still listening. That's why, like, on the number one episode, it has so many listens, and then on the other episodes, they don't have as many because people fall asleep. What's so funny is you listen to those first couple. The reason why it's painfully asleep because I was doing it like 2 a.m. That's why. But you're absolutely right. I'm like, hey, welcome. I'm gonna talk to you about how exciting voiceover is. It is funny. Now I'm like, hello, what's up? It's different. It's so funny. That's true. Someone sent Mark Scott a U87 as a gift. It's good to be Mark. Good for him. Walter, and I'm just saying like that's a not. I mean, send me a U87. I'm down. I'll even do lots of videos for you guys with it, so you can see all about it. Let's see, Lofty, when you edit a recording, do you follow the same workflow model in principle, or do you know more or less tailor each project from scratch? Good question, Lofty. I use the same, unless the only time I deviate from what I'm doing is if I'm doing character work. Okay, then I deviate and I use a different rack and I use different settings. Okay, because my character work is different. I'm screaming. I'm doing all sorts of different things with character work as opposed to me doing like a video narration. You know what I mean? So I do have different settings, but whatever I'm doing, I have a specific setting for it. And I use that the same every single time because my space, my equipment, nothing's changed. Now, when that changes, then I have to change everything. You know, like if my space changed or my equipment changed, you have to change your stuff to match what you have. But I do everything the same based on the type of voiceover I'm doing. Hope that makes sense. All right, you guys, thank you so much. Wonderful session today, man. I had a blast talking to you. I hope this was helpful. Again, if you haven't had a chance, take a moment. Please hit the subscribe button, share this with somebody who wants to spend an hour of their life listening to me. All right, you guys. And by the way, I'd love for you to check out Fiverr Elite Group. We meet on Saturday mornings. Love to have you. It's just a group of peeps getting together, growing our Fiverr businesses through our stats, through learning. We got lots of top-rated sellers in there. We got lots of people, some of them making more money than me. And it's wonderful to have that group and that access to a lot of amazing resources. So the link will be below, or you can check out a VO's journey. Other than that, have a wonderful weekend. Be safe. Peace.